comment from Safraz here. He says, Islamic law is beautiful. We are strong in our laws, deaf to apostates in Muslim nations who cause corruption. Would you like to offer Safraz the opportunity to come up here live and discuss Islamic law with us? Read through
Safraz,
it?
over the last many months, I have dozens of times invited you to come up for us to talk about these beautiful laws, these laws that you claim are so beautiful. Let us just read them and you can give us your opinion, your comments. I will read the laws and you can tell us why they were written, how wonderful they are. If they are beautiful, there is nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be ashamed of. And you can show us why we should adopt these laws, which include killing people who leave Islam, which include killing people who criticize Muhammad. Criticism of Muhammad is defined in Islamic law as not believing Muhammad is totally perfect. And of course, laws that allow grown men, grown adult men to, I'll use the word diddle, legally diddle infants who are in the cradle. This is legal in Islam. Men can have, you know what, this is all defined very clearly, and your scholars have written this. So please come up, let's have that conversation. For some reason, you always comment on my videos, but you are too afraid to meet me. You claim ignorance, yet you want to comment. Go on, Thaddeus.
I put the link in the live chat. To be clear, this is only an invitation to come up and read and discuss the laws. If you come up and you try to talk about something else, you will be removed from chat. Safraz has joined, but his camera is not connected, so I can't add him to the stream at the moment, but hopefully he gets that corrected.
All right, he says put me on, so yeah, fascinating.
Oh, here he is. Here's the man.
I'll get my references up.
Welcome, Safraz. You've been invited up to read and discuss Islamic law with us. If you try to change the topic, you will be removed. That was why you were invited up. So Lloyd is working on pulling up some references to read and discuss right now. We're changing the topic of today just for you.
Apostates, yeah? Hello?
He wants to go to apostate laws, apparently.
Apostates, yeah, I will say straight up, deaf to anybody that leaves Islam and cause corruption in Pakistan, Africa, wherever. I don't care. Kill them off.
You're right, Thaddeus. He is becoming more extreme.
No,
Yes.
It's not extreme. It's not extreme.
No, it's
you're correct, actually,
strictness.
Safraz. It's not extremism. This is proper
It
Islam, but it's what most Muslims would deny. They would say,
I mean, his statements are becoming extreme. This is azima. Islam has azima and rukhsa, leniency and strictness. He is simply now being strict. This is the correct Sunni Islam. He is being 100% correct. So
Yes.
Why is this good?
Because you see, in the West, it was once a Christian country, strict Christian country, no LGBT, none of this rubbish was happening in the West. Strict, happy Christian country. But now you've gone so weak in your laws. Look at the state of the West, USA, England, Europe. LGBT have taken over, which is wrong. These were strict Christian countries, happy, clean countries. Now everything's taken over. The atheists taken over, LGBT have taken over. But you look in Arabia, they're strict. They don't allow this rubbish. They don't allow this LGBT atheism crap. They're strict. Yeah?
okay, so all you've made is a statement of your beliefs in a different way. We're asking why you think that this is a good law to have. You stated that it was good to kill apostates, and then you just kind of restated that in a different way, saying that if the West was practicing Islam, you would be killing gay people specifically in this case, but various other things as well. So again, why is an apostasy law a good thing? Why is a law executing someone for leaving Islam a good thing?
I'm not saying just kill them like that. I'm saying if they leave Islam and if they start like attacking Islam in the same country, they have to be put to death. That's what
Okay,
I'm
Notice
saying.
but
okay.
you're missing my question here.
Notice
The
it states
question
here
isn't
your
what
law
the law
states.
is; it's
What's that?
why you think it's a good thing.
Because they're causing corruption in the land. Anybody that Quran says it, if they cause corruption in the land, kill them, which is good. It's good.
So it should be noted that when you join Islam, when you say the Shahada, it is a contract. The Shahada is technically a contract. So the technical name is Bay'ah. So when you make Bay'ah, you effectively, and also this contract falls under commerce. It falls into the domain of commerce. It's a commercial transaction. Thaddeus, under what context do you sell your allegiance to a particular deity within our theological understanding? To whom do you sell your eternal
Your
soul?
soul, yes. Well, you certainly can't sell your soul to Yahweh because He already is the proper owner of your soul. You can only sell your soul to a false deity such as Satan himself.
So within Western context, we sell our souls to Satan. Now in Islam, so you have signed a contract. You have sold your soul to Allah, and when you break that contract, you are then punished with death. Notice it says whoever voluntarily leaves Islam is killed. So you are killed for leaving voluntarily, right? So it doesn't say anything about if you go therefore and slander Islam afterwards. It just means that you leave Islam. So apostasy from Islam, right? It says here when a person who has reached puberty and is sane voluntarily apostatizes from Islam, he deserves to be killed. So this is, you may be killed on sight, you may be killed on the spot. There is no necessity for them to give you 1 day or 3 days and so on. They can literally kill you on the spot. This is what ISIS would do. They're simply being strict. Any additional time is rukhsa. It's simply being lenient. Your thoughts, Thaddeus and Safraz. So why should we want to have these laws? Why are these a good thing? Why do you think, why do Muslims lie about this? What is the shame when they should simply be honest that this is the Islamic law?
Well, I don't know what it is, but I know one thing is these Islamic countries today, they don't kill them. They just eat.
They're not fully under the
them.
Sharia. They are not.
Then
You know, many people are killed in the West, in Nigeria, in India, in Pakistan. They are killed, but Sharia is not fully in effect yet. It's only partially.
yeah. But these Africans are a bit crazy. They're a bit wild, aren't they? They're a bit wild people. Like if anybody says anything little thing, they just stone them and put them to death, which is actually wrong. But you don't see that happening in Arabia, in the Arab world.
So you're contradicting yourself. You came in here and you said
Yeah.
that the death penalty for apostasy was good and justified.
Yeah.
Now you seem to be saying it's good that, or maybe you're saying that's bad that Arab countries are not fully following these laws, that they are some way subject to the West. There's some way that is actually the reason they're not fully following these, is because they have to have relations with the Western countries to buy their oil. And they don't want to be too offensive. They don't want to be too blatant about enforcing these kind of things, because there'll be an international uprising against them. So are you saying that those countries are being bad and not properly following the laws, or are you changing your opinion and saying that these laws should be moderated?
To be honest, yeah, I don't know about killing them for leaving, but I know for a fact in Saudi Arabia that they kill them for putting attacking Islam. They'll actually leave Islam, and then they start going on the internet and start to attack Islam. So then
Even Saudi Arabia is under pressure from Islamic law, from international observation. If the Saudis want to do trade and do deals and business with the West, they also need to do some level of moderation of their policy so that they are not offending other states. Because if they had to implement this fully, they would simply become pariahs on the world stage. So they're allowed under Islam to practice leniency. This is just rukhsa. I want to change the topic. So,
Yeah.
Safraz,
Yeah.
Do you admit that it is legal in Islam for a grown man to have sex with minor children, including infants, to have full
Not,
sex?
no, 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 not now. No, no, no. I don't
Not
believe in that.
now. So,
No,
not
no,
now.
no.
So it was once.
It was once happening everywhere around the world. Arabia, Israel, wherever you went, the West was doing it as well. Everyone was doing it. But now they've got no laws, and in Islam, you have to follow the laws of the land, wherever.
Laws. Okay,
You go.
that's. So hopefully you can bring some evidence that states that. I'm going to go through the laws on, well, the laws of marriage and divorce of minor children, including infants, and I want your comments on this. So we're going to go to Pakistan. Now, once I showed this to a Muslim, sorry, he told me that Pakistanis are not real Muslims. So I hope that's not going to be your comment. But we're going to look at Quran 65:4. So this is a document by two professors of law in Pakistan. And it says here, on the basis of the analysis of reported cases, the following books are found to be relied upon more frequently by the courts to derive an authentic point of Islamic law. And they quote, the first book is the Hidayah, which is the major fiqh manual, the major Sharia law manual of the Hanafi school of fiqh. Then you've got the digest of Muhammadan law and a couple of others. So let's go have a look at this digest of Muhammadan law. The two professors involved are Shahbad Ahmed Chima, professor of law, PhD. This is at the Punjab University, and of course Samir Ozer Khan, right? They are verifiably professors at these locations. This is the book that the Pakistani courts refer to. And it states here, when a man has had sexual intercourse with a girl under the age of 9 years, and he has ruptured the parts, this means he has destroyed her vagina. It is unlawful for him to have further connection with her, but she's not released from her ties if connected with him by marriage or slavery. If no rupture has taken place, in other words, if she is, if he has not destroyed her vagina through copulation, the prohibition is not incurred according to the most valid opinion. This tells us that adults may have sex with minors, right? This is a girl under the age of 9, and he may have sex with slave girls who are minors under the age of 9. Please tell us why this is moral and why this is right, and we should allow this.
Lloyd, the other guy told me this is Pakistan, and Pakistan is one screwed up country. I'm from Pakistan.
No. This is Sharia law. The Hanafi school of fiqh is global.
That's a crooked country.
This is an example that Pakistan, an Islamic country, uses this. You are Pakistani.
But
are you from a screwed up? Are you screwed up?
They don't follow Islamic laws there. They don't do
so
anything.
What do they follow, Safraz, if it's not Islamic law? Because 99% of the country is Islamic.
I go there about once every year, and they've got gays, they got lesbians, they got everything on the streets around there. They don't do that anymore. They don't follow Islam over there. They're not interested.
So they're not real Muslims. Okay, so we're back to they're not real Muslims. Let's continue. So let's continue. Right now, it says there is no waiting period for a woman divorced before having sex with her husband. Fantastic. Now we're dealing with Quran 65:4, which states, as for your women who have despaired of further menstruating, if you are in doubt, their waiting period shall be 3 months. And for those who have not menstruated yet, they will also have a waiting period of 3 months. In other words, they are too young to menstruate. They are minor children. Now it states here in this law, it's screwed up, yet it goes there every year, I know. No, a waiting period is obligatory for a woman divorced after intercourse, so she's had sex. Whether the husband and wife are prepubescent, they have reached puberty, or one has and the other has not. And intercourse means copulation. Now, this is the most popular Islamic law manual in the world. It's found all over the world in Islamic households.
You know that
this allows prepubescent sex. Now, why is this good? How is this? Now, you say
Safraz, wait, let Lloyd finish, and then you can talk.
Okay.
Now, you have told us many, many times that that apparently in the Bible, young children have been diddled, and this is evil. Here we have the eternal law of Allah, eternal, will never expire. And this is legal in Islam, and it will be. If there's a caliphate, this will become the law. Infants, it will be legal for adult men to have sex. Pedophilia will be legal. How is this good? If it's evil in the Bible, evil in Christianity, supposedly, how is it not evil in Islam? How is Islam then not evil?
for me, I don't believe that this was for the future. It was just for that time, whatever it what was
No,
happening.
this is the Sharia is eternal. The law of Allah is eternal.
If it
Please
was
show me
eternal,
evidence that this. No, show me the evidence. Show me from the fiqh. I've
if it
just
was
showed you the fiqh.
eternal,
Show
then
me.
all these other countries will be following it, but they're not. It was just for that. It was just for that time.
No, I've just explained to you. You're supposed to form a caliphate and then impose this law. This is the law. Sharia for Britain. You want Sharia for Britain. This is the Sharia. Why is this good? Why should we allow this? How is this moral?
No.
Please tell me.
For me, this cannot be happening at all.
So you're saying that you disagree with Islam's best and most trusted scholars, the founder of Islamic law, the various founders of Islamic law. You say that you disagree with them, and the only response you can say is, for me, this is not good. Is that correct?
This is not. This here. What you're talking about is not for this time. It was only for that time. Simple as that.
So wait, hold on. So tell me, in the Bible, you say that Christianity is evil because apparently we had pedophilia then, but it's not for this time. So how is it then okay in Islam, but it's not okay? This is the exact same situation.
I'm not saying that.
How does your logic work?
I'm saying to you that the Jews follow the Torah, and it was not the Torah is not.
Do you support this law? Do you support this law? Yes or no?
Listen here about kids under age. No.
This is consistent across all of the schools of fiqh. Every single one of your mujtahids who founded Islam, who founded your schools of fiqh, all of them agree with this.
I don't believe that. I haven't seen any scholar agree with this. This
is the ijma. This you're looking at the scholars agreeing. This is the ijma. This is the consensus.
This book, what you're reading from here, is not trustworthy. It's not trustworthy.
How do you know your opinion is trustworthy?
Because you've got scholars, Arab scholars, who are saying do not read this book. If you go on to Islamic QA,
Islam QA. Hold on. So let's go to Islam QA. Actually, you know what? I will actually go there.
That's a good point. He said that we can go to Islam QA. I was going to ask him what we should go to, if not the classic manuals of Sharia, and he suggested Islam QA. So let's see what they have to say on this subject.
Yep. Essentially.
While you're pulling that up, Carol said, "Aren't these scholars not to be questioned?" And Vilna said, "Did Safraz just leave Islam? Isn't this Sharia?"
Yep.
Well, so I just pulled up Q and you already got it. Okay, you got it. Never mind.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring up, this is Islam QA. This is the ruling on acting and marrying young girls. Let's go. Why in Islam are you allowed to marry girls of age below 10 without their permission? And can you justify this ruling of Islamic child marriage? This is a question by a Muslim. This is Fatwa number 22442, published on the 30th of June, 2002. Let's see what it says. Marrying a young girl before she reaches the age of adolescence is permitted in Sharia. There was scholarly consensus on this point. And those of you women that have passed the age of monthly courses, for them the Ida, prescribed period, if you have doubt, is 3 months. And for those who have no courses, i.e. they are still immature, the Ida is 3 months likewise, Quran 65:4. Now it states here in the fatwa, a girl who does not have periods because she is young and has not yet reached puberty, this indicates clearly that Allah has made this a valid marriage. The Prophet married Aisha when she was 6 and he consummated when she was 9. And that is narrated by Bukhari 4840 and Muslim 1422. The Prophet married Aisha when she was 6 and consummated when she was 9. Bukhari and Muslim says 7 years. Now, this does not mean that it is permissible, they say, to have intercourse with her, but we shall see as we go through the ijma, the consensus. If the husband and the guardian of the girl agree that this will not cause harm to the young girl, then that may be done, if they both agree. It's like two wolves deciding if it's good for them to eat the sheep. Abu Ubaid said that once a girl reaches 9, then the marriage may be consummated even without her consent. There's a word for that, G-R-A-P-E, remove the G. But that does not apply in the case of a girl who is younger, apparently. But notice, There is nothing in the hadith of Aisha to set an age limit or to forbid that in the case of a girl who's able for it before the age of 9. So it says here there's nothing to prevent this. Now let's continue. So Safraz, we've just pulled up Islam QA, and this says that he's gone. Oh boy.
Yes, Safraz dropped out. He did drop out involuntarily earlier, so I'll open the possibility that he just lost his internet connection, but the timing is awfully suspicious. He says, look at what they say on Islam QA. You are on about the second paragraph of what they say, and he disappears. So we'll see if he pops back up.
So I'll finish this section if I may, and then I'll go back to what we were doing, Thaddeus. So thanks for that.
Yes, excellent.
So when a woman who has been made love to, performs the bath, the purificatory bath, and the male sperm leaves her vagina, she must repeat this bath, this purification, if 2 conditions exist. One, that she's not a child. So in other words, if she is a child, she doesn't have to take the bath, but rather, although it does state that, a full indemnity is paid for the injuries which paralyze these members or for injuring the peritoneal wall between the vagina and the rectum so they become one aperture. This refers now back to the first law that I read. So if an adult male, rapes a young child, and he rips the skin from vagina to anus, he needs to, you called him any scholarly argument. Yeah, I'm trying to be polite about this. Thanks. Now, notice this is fiqh to educate women. This is a favorite with the people of the Indian subcontinent as well as the Indian Muslim diaspora all over the world. It's a comprehensive encyclopedia of fiqh, Islamic rituals, and Islamic morals. If a person has sex with a minor girl, ablution will not be necessary. So this now confirms what the previous Islamic legal text said. But in order to get into the habit, she should be made to bath. That's a minor. A minor is someone who's not had puberty. Notice they now stipulate if a woman is underage, but not so small that if one has intercourse with her, there is fear of the vaginal tissues tearing. Now, that is, why would we be concerned about vaginal tissues tearing in an adult? Mary, do you have any thoughts on this? Yeah, as well.
I would actually love to talk about this topic because this is something I discovered in the manuals of fiqh a long time ago, and then I lost it. I couldn't find it, and I recently found it when you covered it again. I'm so grateful. So a fistula is when there is such damage to the vaginal area that between the vagina and the rectum that rips open. And what happens from then on out during that woman's entire life, she leaks fecal matter. So she is incontinent. That basically means anywhere she goes, she's constantly dripping poop, no matter where she goes. And her vaginal area, smells like her anus would. It smells like feces. And she's constantly dripping poop because she doesn't have anything to hold in and there are infections, there are other problems, and so women who get this condition, obviously they stink, they are completely shunned by society, they are despised, and it only this is not something that happens in sexual intercourse between an adult woman and a man, unless it is one of the most catastrophically violent attacks that you could imagine. But because they are having sex with little girls so young that, oops, you might miscalculate if you just go and oopsie, oh, I thought it would be okay. But it turned out that while I was having intercourse with her, I ripped her apart permanently for the rest of her life. Right. Well, then I'm not supposed to have sex with her anymore if I have done that to her once. So here's the thing. This is absolutely horrific. And the idea that this is treated as an oopsie, well, if you think that you're not going to rip her apart and make her permanently disabled and permanently ostracized from society and damage her hideously, if you think that your intercourse won't do that, go ahead. Now, there's still a chance that it might. There's still a chance that you might make that oopsie, but women are such trash. They're valued so little that doing that to a little girl, and you can imagine what's happening to her when that's happening, that she's screaming and crying as she's being ripped apart. This would be more painful than childbirth. For all of you women who had unmedicated childbirth, far less painful. Because guess what? You don't tear that much at all, unless it's like a really horrific labor. You just don't tear that much.
No.
Far more violent and painful. He is sitting on top of her, doing that to her until he tears her apart. And this is in Islamic law.
I know, this is horrific, but Palestine says none of this is true. None of this is in the Quran. There's a lot of things that are not in the Quran, like the 5 daily prayers is not in the Quran. How to pray is not in the Quran. The Quran is an incomplete document. In fact, in terms of the Sharia, it's effectively irrelevant. It has been superseded by the Sharia. It's been superseded by the fiqh. Now, he says this is in the Talmud. This is not. None of this is in the Talmud. I know.
Absolutely not.
People are going to argue with me about that, and you're happy to come on, and I will humiliate and embarrass you personally. But on that point, no, this is the fiqh, Palestine. This is your Islamic law. This is legal. This is righteous. This is supposedly moral. This is Islam. Deal with it. Let's continue.
So before you do, I want to make a quick comment. I actually agree with Palestine. None of this is true. But it's not true because it is immoral, disgusting, gross behavior. It is taught by Islam. So if this is immoral behavior, it's because the Islamic scholars who created these laws, the same people who passed on the Quran, the same people who passed on the Hadith, the same people that you must rely on to follow Islam were liars, disgusting, immoral people who invented this crap that you rightfully recognize as crap, but you still follow everything else they taught you.
They have to own this. This is Islam. This is the true face of Islam. This is why Sharia is a secret. This is why it is treason for them to reveal this. That's why, of course, once his face dropped off. Now, I'll continue. So, if there is a fear that the vaginal tissues will tear to such an extent that the vagina and anus will virtually come together, then by the insertion of the glands of the penis into a vagina, ablution will become obligatory on the man if he has reached the age of puberty. Notice this applies to boys as well. Boys can also be underage. However, if there is the aforementioned fear in a very minor goal, notice they make a distinction between minor and very minor. And when they say very minor, they mean infants in the cradle. Do not get me wrong here. They mean infants in the cradle. Then the mere insertion, blah, blah. I think you get this. And then finally, ablution is obligatory, fard, on both of them if both are mature. Alternatively, it will be obligatory on the one who is mature. And this is an encyclopedia of Islam dealing in a very simple way with the tenets and principles to practice Islam in day-to-day life. And let's continue. A final one.
But real quick, before you do that, I wanted to bring this up. Palestine says he's finished and he'll be back later, just like his buddy Safraz. As soon as it got real, he had to leave.
Yep. I'll finish with this and we'll go back to our topic. Notice infant wife adultery. So a man can be punished for accusing his infant wife of cheating on him by sleeping with another man. When I say infant, I mean a child is a year old. Okay, understand that. And of course, the court will say, look, it's impossible for your 1-year-old wife to cheat on you with another man. She could not have done it voluntarily. So therefore, you are at fault for blaming her. You're just trying to get out of this marriage. So notice a husband who accuses his wife of adultery is disciplined. When adultery is impossible, such as when the person accused is a mere infant. Remember, they define infant as a baby in the cradle. So understand, this is law in Islam. This is considered righteous. This is considered holy. Any final word, Thaddeus and Mary, before I continue?
Safraz just re-entered the stream here.
Oh, very convenient.
But I know my internet's just crashed today. My internet's crashed. I was out. I've just come home.
Hey, no problem. We'll be happy to go back to what Islam QA says.
Was it Islam QA?
You suggested we look at Islam QA, so we're going to go back there. Because you told us that what we're telling you isn't taught by Islam, that the scholars of Islam QA, for example, disagree with what we're saying.
Yeah.
Sadly for you, Safraz, the scholars agree with me and disagree with you. They said exactly the opposite of what you've said.
Go on in.
So in this fatwa on Islam QA, why is it allowed in Islam to marry girls below the age 10 without their permission? Can you justify this ruling of child marriage? And the answer is that marrying a young girl before she reaches the age of adolescence is permitted in the Sharia. Now, these scholars, of course, they believe in the Sharia, even if you don't. And there was scholarly consensus. There was ijma on this point. So all of the schools of fiqh, all of the founding fathers of Islam, they all agreed that this adolescent marriage, pre-adolescent marriage, pre-pubescent marriage is legal. And it states here, Quran 65:4, and it says a girl who does not have periods because she is young and has not reached puberty, right, because she is immature, right? So it says here, those who have no courses, they are still immature, in other words, still before puberty. This indicates that Allah has made prepubescent marriage a valid marriage. And they talk about the hadith of Aisha, where she was 6 years old. And it states here, if the husband and the guardian of the girl agree upon something that will not cause harm, then they may have, well, you may agree, the husband may have sex with this girl. And Abu Ubaid said, once a girl reaches 9, the marriage may be consummated without her consent. This is called marital rape. Now, there is nothing in the hadith of Aisha to set an age limit or to forbid that in the case of a girl who is able for it before the age of 9. So even according to Islam QA, prepubescent sex is legal. So explain to us why this is moral, why this pedophilia is considered good and holy in Islam.
My argument is, that Quran goes with the Torah. They're both the same, just for me, and this was happening a lot at that time. But
this is 2002. This is the 21st century.
Let him finish.
No, I know that, but what I'm trying to say to you, this law was agreed upon in the Quran and in the Torah by God, but you're not going to find that you are not going to find this happening now. It does not happen.
So,
now.
Safraz, what you're telling us then is that people are more moral than the commands of your God.
It's not that, because at that time they were having kids everywhere.
This article was written in 2002.
What's that?
This article on Islam QA that we're looking at right now is written in 2002. You suggested we go to this source. We go to it. It's written 2002. Are you saying that child marriage was okay in 2002, but it's no longer okay in 2022?
No, they are saying in this website, they're saying that it is okay according to the laws. But what I'm trying to say to you, even if it was okay, it does not happen now. It's rare. You're not going to find it happening.
So I'll agree. I'll concede that point. That is true. It is rare. Most people are not interested in having sex with children. That's not the point. How common it is irrelevant. What is relevant here is that your God says this is allowed, and you told us that it was immoral. So which is it? Is it allowed and moral and people just choose not to do it? Or is it immoral and inappropriate?
For me, it is not moral. No, it's not moral for this time. This is what I'm saying to you.
2002, it was okay.
No, I'm not saying that. Even the Jews will agree with this.
So when a caliphate is formed, is this the law, Safraz? When a caliphate is formed, is this the law?
What's that?
This
no.
Well, actually, I'll make a statement. This is Islamic law. This will be the law under a caliphate. This will be legal under an Islamic caliphate.
There's no country that will put this into the law. There's no that really.
You want Sharia for Britain, don't you? This is the Sharia.
No, but it will never happen. You know that.
Okay, so basically you're saying that it's okay that Islamic law is evil because no one today is so insane that they would do the evil things that Islamic law says are fine. But actually, if you go to Yemen, for example, a girl was raped to death by her husband, a little bitty tiny girl, and died. And they were going to put in, because she was very young, they were going to put in a legal age of marriage. And when that happened, there were enormous riots of people saying that, no, it is un-Islamic to put in this age of marriage. So it wasn't passed. So you're wrong. There were people who, looking at a little girl who had died because of what her husband did to her, they said that that is better than putting in a law because the law is un-Islamic and her dying is unfortunate, but just something that you have to allow to happen sometimes to be able to have correct Sharia law.
Yeah, but these are war-torn countries. They're doing everything with the bloody
They're following Islam. So now you're saying that Islamic law is wrong and that people shouldn't follow it.
Okay. You show me where this is happening in Saudi Arabia, Dubai, UAE, Egypt.
It is happening in Egypt, sweetheart. What's happening with the misyar marriages in Egypt? Little girls are having up to 60 husbands. 60 husbands by the time they are adults. All you have to do is type in misyar marriage children Egypt, and you will find tons of articles covering these tiny little girls who are sold into sex slavery over and over and over again to their misyar marriage Sunni husbands. So the question is about Islamic law and whether or not Islamic law allows it. Now, Lloyd has shown you over and over again that Islamic law absolutely allows this. And all you can say is, yeah, but nobody's going to do it. Nobody's going to do it. And people are doing it. And you're like, well, they're doing it there, but they're not going to do it somewhere else. So you're okay with little girls being raped to death. Raped to death is okay with you.
What I'm trying to
say, you just think that it isn't happening in certain countries. Some Islamic countries, nominally Islamic countries, aren't doing what Sharia law says they should. So, here is my question, Safraz. Do you want Sharia or not? Yes or no? Do you want Sharia?
What's that?
Okay. Do you want Sharia?
Let him answer, Mary. Let him answer.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Safraz.
I'm saying that the laws that Saudi Arabia have got today, Dubai have got, these laws are good for me. Strict laws like that.
So you do not want Sharia?
Huh?
So Safraz, you said that this wasn't happening in Egypt. It took me and Egypt was the first country I looked for. I'm no doubt can find cases in Saudi Arabia too, but 117,000 children under the age of 18 are currently married in Egypt, and there is currently, April 2022, an effort to pass a law to forbid these kind of marriages. And there is opposition against it from, guess what? Fundamentalist Muslim clerics who say that this is against our laws. This is putting a minimum age for marriage is against our religious beliefs. So again, the question for you is, do you support these fundamentalist Islamic clerics, such as those on Islam QA that you told us to go and look what they have to say, or do you believe in the law of Safraz, that Safraz decides what is good? I am 100% certain that you personally would not marry a child. But that doesn't mean there aren't other adult men who would marry a child. So should it be illegal for them, or should it be legal like it has traditionally been in Islamic law?
For me, it cannot be happening. It cannot be happening. Children getting married at really young age. It does not.
Well, it is happening. So it really doesn't matter if it's too offensive for you to imagine people would do it. People will do it. So should there be a law forbidding it? Or should the law allow it and each person make their own moral decision?
But Tedios, you have to understand this, these girls, I cannot see these girls even agreeing to it. They're getting forced into it, which is wrong. You can't force
of course they're being forced into it. As the text that Lloyd read you from Islam QA says, the guardian makes the decision.
No. There was a hadith. There's a hadith saying that there was a...
We're not interested, Safraz, we're not interested in your dissimulation. We're not interested in the abrogated hadith. We are discussing the fifth. We'll talk about the fifth.
There's a well-known
Islam QA clearly tells us that this is legal. The girl can be forced into it against her will. She doesn't need to consent.
There's no.
We have just made this clear to you.
I can show you from the same website. I can show you from the same website is Islam QA, where it shows you Ibn Taymiyyah, the biggest scholar around, saying that you cannot force a girl. Islam QA.
Is that the ijma?
Okay, what is the
that
question
ijma?
number or the topic name? Let's find it. Let's see what they say. Because
Just
I don't trust you, Safraz. I'm sorry. You repeatedly make up stuff, and then when we show you what the source actually says, then you're like, that source doesn't matter to me.
So
the thing is, yeah,
Safraz,
I can't.
so
But
is this
let me
moral
answer.
to you? Is this moral? Yes, no. Do you support this? Yes or no?
For me, no. You can't force anybody. You can't force a little girl.
This is so. Are
So-
you saying that Islamic law is immoral?
No, I can't access my internet.
Okay, Safraz, let's just, for the sake of argument, say you're correct, and that the guardian doesn't make the decision for the child. Can you tell me, think about a small child, someone age 6, someone age 8, someone age 10. If their father tells them to do something, do you really think they're going to say, no, I won't do that? Do you really think they have the ability to consent? Do you think a 6-year-old has the ability to give informed consent for marriage?
Well, the girl won't be happy, obviously. She will not be happy. Any young girl will not be happy to get 6. Yeah?
Actually, young girls often fantasize about getting married.
At 6 years old.
Yeah, it's quite common for children to pretend to be married because they view that for example, the example of their parents, they see their parents married. They don't act, of course they don't understand what that entails, but children try to imitate their parents. They look at their parents and say, oh, my parents are very happy, they're married. I want that for myself. I want to get married. So again, I ask you, can a 6-year-old give informed consent? Let's say that for the sake of argument, you're wrong, but let's say for the sake of argument that the child's consent is required. Can a child actually consent? Can a child actually understand what it means to get married at age 6?
To be honest, yeah, the girl doesn't have a clue what age is at 6 years old, to be honest.
Okay, I agree. So then there should be a minimum age for marriage. Do you, according to you, not according to Islamic law, but according to you, the child should have to have reached a certain age where they can make an informed decision for themselves, and they should have to be able to give consent. Is that correct?
Yeah. They cannot be forced. No one can be forced to get to agree.
Islamic law makes that legal, though. So now we know that
Islamic law does not. You can't force anybody.
This is perfectly legal within Islamic law, and I'm happy to discuss. We can take a separate occasion and go through the laws of marriage. Now, notice here.
You had it up on this. Hey, Lloyd, you had it up on the screen earlier. I don't remember if it was Islam QA or one of your sources, but it specifically said that the guardian can force the child into marriage.
No.
They may. Yes, that is true. The guardian can do that, and also
If
notice
she
the
is,
guardian.
yeah. If she is
guardian can
prepubescent,
decide.
especially, that is the case in which marriage. So a virgin assents generally by her silence. So the first marriage of a girl, she never speaks to. Whether or not she's a child or an adult, she does not say, I want to marry this man, because her silence is considered assent. And secondly, if she arranges her own marriage, she is called an adulteress by Muhammad. So if she chooses her own partner, the virgin who arranges her own marriage is an adulteress, according to Muhammad. That is a direct quote from Sahih sources. And furthermore, if she is a prepubescent child, then the Islamic law says that she has no consent anyway, so that decision is made completely by her guardians. That's the Islamic law.
The guardian and the husband can decide that she can be used for his sexual pleasure without her consent, as we have up on the screen right here. This is from Islam QA. So this is consistent with all of the Islamic law texts. I mean, maybe let me show Safraz the rest. Safraz, this is consistent across all of these Islamic law manuals. They speak here of a rupture of a young child. We're talking an infant, someone who's a minor, prepubescent. The tearing of the peritoneal wall between vagina and rectum. This is because the adult has destroyed the body of a minor child. And it says here that the minor child doesn't have to have ghusl because she's too young. notice it says here that if you have sexual intercourse with a minor girl, the minor girl does not have to have the ghusl. She doesn't have to purify herself. It speaks of if a woman is underage, but not so small that if one has intercourse with her, there is fear of the vaginal tissues tearing. Now, these are books that are used and read by millions and millions, tens of millions of Muslims. This is standard Islamic fiqh. This is the same across all the schools of fiqh, every single one. They speak of fear in a very minor goal. A very minor goal, you need to, if there is the aforementioned fear, then insertion of the penis does not make the ghusl obligatory, the purificatory bath obligatory. But it says here minor goals and very minor goals, and it says that, so this is Islamic law. Now, why do Muslims not simply admit that this is what is in the Sharia, in the fiqh?
Welcome to the stream, Golden Age Islam. Oh, never mind, they dropped back out.
Okay.
Hello.
Why do all the scholars say this? Every single scholar of the madhabs all say this.
The only thing is, the only thing I believe in and what I've read in the hadiths is, that no girl can.
We're not interested in the hadiths. The hadiths, the ijma. We are interested in the ijma. This is the Islamic law. This is
we go through Quran and hadith.
No, Safraz, you are at the Ibara level of Islam. That is the lowest level of knowledge, the absolutely lowest level of knowledge. The only things you are permitted, are the Quran and some hadith. This is the scholars. You always say consult a scholar. I have consulted the scholars. This is the word of the scholars. Your imams go to study for 7 years at seminary to learn this stuff and do this in court. This is what they have in court. So explain to me why all of your most highly trained imams, the best imams who have ever lived, all of them agree that this is correct Islamic law.
One of the highest scholars of Islam is called Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah. He says it straight that no girl can be forced into marriage.
What is the text? What is the text? Where do we find it? Is this the ijma? Is this ijma? Was he one of the founding imams? Because he is a Sheikh al-Islam, but he is not at the level of the Hujjat. He's not at the level of the Mujtahids Mutlaq. He is not a Mujtahid Mutlaq. So we're talking about the Mujtahids Mutlaq. This is the ijma, the consensus. Where in the consensus does it disagree with this?
Let me see, wait. Forced into sleeping with the living.
Well, while Safraz is looking for that reference, there was a comment here asking us to clarify the difference between underage girls and above 9. I'm not 100% sure if this is what he meant, but I did want to point it out either way, that the fiqh here is making a distinction. It says women underage, which is very kind of self-contradictory there, but it distinguishes this group from very minor girls. So you have minor females who are underage, say perhaps between the age of 10 or 12 and 17, and then you have very minor girls. It recognizes there's a distinction, but the distinction isn't you're allowed to have sex with one, you're allowed to marry another.
So Fraz, how is this beautiful? How is the rape of a 3-year-old, a 2-year-old, 5-year-old, how is this beautiful? Please explain. This is your law.
I'm actually reading.
Safraz, how is this beautiful? You've told me Islamic law is beautiful. How is this beautiful?
For me, what I've read.
How is this beautiful?
I'm giving the highest scholar in history. Ibn Taymiyyah is one of the highest scholars in history.
Ibn Taymiyyah is a Sheikh al-Islam.
He's one of the big scholars.
Below the Mujtahids Mutlaq, who are the 4 scholars who founded the schools of fiqh, and above them sits Al-Ghazali, who is the Hujjat, the proof of Islam. So I know exactly the status of Ibn Taymiyyah. He's the expert on jihad. He's the one that all turn to when they want to learn about the laws of jihad. And of course, Sab al-Rasul, which is insulting Muhammad. And of course, he's also one of the major founders of the polemics against Christianity. I happen to know this better than you do. So explain to me why this is beautiful. Because this is the ijma. This is the consensus of all the schools of fiqh.
Well, I'm going through Islam, and there put Ibn Taymiyyah's written references, and he's Then it's straight. Is you cannot force a girl.
We're not interested in Ibn Taymiyyah's opinion. That is
Okay,
not ijma.
we already discussed forcing or not forcing, and I already said even if that is the case, that it's still equally disgusting. So
I have something relevant. Let's talk about Ibn Taymiyyah here. Let's see what Islam QA says about what a father can do about a little bitty girl who's underage. Okay? So let's look at some of these various quotes. For example, it is permissible for a man to arrange a marriage for his young son, even if he's not reached puberty. It's also permissible for him to arrange for his young daughter, even if she has not reached the age of puberty, etc., etc. It says that. Oh gosh, it scrolled up.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll find it in just a second. So yeah, he's got some great ones. Thank you.
So this is Ibn Taymiyyah. While we're at this, this is the unsheathed sword against the one who insults Muhammad. Okay, this is Ibn Taymiyyah's. This is the Sharia law on insulting Muhammad. It states here. So Safraz, you agree with this, right? Murdering non-Muslims who insult Muhammad. Whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed, whether they are Muslim or non-Muslim. Killing is prescribed on him who insults Muhammad, and it is not permissible to imprison or show favor to him or ask to ransom him. Any Muslim or non-Muslim who insults Muhammad is to be killed. No repentance is sought. Let's continue. Right? Now, this is Ibn Taymiyyah, one of the greatest authorities. You just told us he's a major authority in Islam. Whoever insults Muhammad is to be killed, whether Muslim or non-Muslim. This is the general view of the scholars. This is the ijma. The scholars have consensus, the ijma again, that whoever insults Muhammad is to be killed. Malik, Layth, Ahmad, Ishaq. So this tells us that Muslims have unanimous agreement killing whoever insults Muhammad. You agree with these rules of murdering people who don't believe that Muhammad is perfect?
Should be.
Yes or no?
Put it up again. Put the
yes or no
page up again. Put that page up again. So I can read it. Whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed, whether they are Muslim. Well, he's saying that anyway, but whew.
Do you agree with this? You've just told us he is one of the greatest authorities in Islam. You've just told us. So this is him. Do you agree with this? This is the ijma. He is referencing the founders of the four schools of fiqh. So do you stand with murder for people who, non-Muslims and Muslims, who criticize Muhammad?
Well, how do you know? How do you know that's not talking about in a Muslim country?
Muslims or non-Muslims?
A Muslim country.
So let's review here. We read you Sharia. You say, don't read me that. Go to Islam QA. We go to Islam QA. You say, don't give me Islam QA. Give me Ibn Taymiyyah. We go to Ibn Taymiyyah, and you say, well, he doesn't really mean what he says. So who can we go to, Safraz? Who can we actually look at?
He's saying here, whoever insults the Prophet is to be killed, whether they are Muslim or disbeliever. He could be talking about in the Arab world.
So he might be. Prove us wrong. Prove me wrong. Show me the evidence that it's otherwise. Remember, because we know, for instance, take Samuel Paty was killed in France, right? Think of the number of people killed in Nigeria. Think of the number of people killed in the Philippines. Think of the people murdered in Holland by Muslims because they insulted Muhammad. Think of the number of people killed because of the cartoons in Denmark and other places. This happens all over the world. So tell me, do you agree with murder of non-Muslims and Muslims who believe Muhammad is not perfect?
Well, I believe if anybody insults a prophet in one of them countries, I think, they're causing corruption in the land. Deal with them.
So kill them.
Only in a Muslim land.
So what define deal with them? Because this is your law. See, this is your Islamic law. This is black and white Ibn Taymiyyah. It says to kill Muslims and non-Muslims. The country is not defined. They do speak about dhimmis, but they call that a separate category. That is non-Muslims living in an Islamic land. So this refers to Muslims and non-Muslims globally. Why do you support this? How is this good? Why should we like this? Why should we think it's great?
It does not say he is globally. This could be in the Arab world.
Okay, fine, Safraz. Let's just say for argument that it only applies in Islamic countries. The question is, how is this beautiful? How is this a good thing? Let's just say you're correct and it only applies in Muslim majority countries. How is it a beautiful thing to kill someone for insulting Muhammad?
Because in the Quran, Allah says if anybody causes corruption in the land, should be killed. And these people.
So that is what the basis of the law is, and no doubt that is one of the many things the scholars will cite. But that isn't the question. The question is, how is this beautiful? Are you saying it's beautiful because Allah says it is? Are you saying that Islamic law? So what you're telling us then is this statement is meaningless, that Islamic law is beautiful. That's a meaningless statement, because what you're saying is it's Islamic law because Allah says it is, and it's beautiful because Allah says it is. So there, you have said absolutely nothing when you've said Islamic law is beautiful.
I think if I believe anybody insults a prophet in one of them Arab lands, anybody comes out in public insulting him.
This doesn't talk about Arab lands only, Safraz. This does not mention that. In Arab lands, they speak of dhimmis only. So, unfortunately, your statements are not valid. So, why is this beautiful?
The scholars say today, the scholars say that you should follow the laws of the land. But
so Safraz, are the laws of the land superior to Allah's laws? That's what you're telling me.
What's that?
Are the laws created by human beings, the laws of the land, superior to Allah? You told me Islamic law is beautiful. Now you're saying the scholars of Islam say to follow the secular law instead. So are you saying that Muslims should follow secular law because it is superior to the law of Allah, and the law of Allah is not beautiful? Is that what you're telling me now?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that. They're saying that for example, if you live in the USA, you have to follow their
Where
law.
is this?
Right.
Where is this ijma ruling? Where is this ijma ruling? Please show me the fiqh manual that says this. If you cannot, I'm going to tell you you are lying to me. I want to see the fiqh ruling from the ijma.
Well, I've got no details now, mate. I'm getting you
Okay.
Well, I'm giving you.
So Safraz, that's fine. You don't have to have everything off the cuff. That's fine. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go research that, and then before you leave any other comment in the comments, we want a source for that claim. Anything else you say will be ignored or deleted. We want a source for your claim. You just claimed it's in Islamic law. You don't have it with you. That's fine. I don't expect you to have memorized all of the law. I don't expect you to know every source off the top of your head. But you're saying that this is true. So your first comment in the comment sections of this video better either be a source or an admission that you can't find that and you don't actually have any basis to believe that is what Islamic law teaches.
I will get you. Hopefully, I'll get you stuff, and then I'll once I have it, I'll either give it to Ophir through comments. Yeah.
So
perfect.
Are your scholars wrong, Safraz? Are your scholars wrong? The mujtahids mutlaq, are they wrong?
What?
Are these laws incorrect?
Which ones?
The ones that, so you're saying, let me clarify for Safraz. So Safraz, you've said that Islamic scholars teach to follow the laws of the land. Lloyd has pointed out numerous Islamic scholars who are saying these are the laws you should follow. So his question for you now is, are the scholars he's quoting wrong? Are these scholars uninformed about the higher ruling that you should follow secular law?
Can you show me, Lloyd, where any scholars say that you have to follow Islam, even you have to follow the laws of Islam?
Why don't you show me? I've just showed you the law, so you've got to show me that I'm wrong.
No, I'm saying to you that there are scholars saying that if you live in another country, like a Christian country or Jewish country,
is this in the fiqh? Is this ijma? Is this the consensus?
How are the laws? You can't
give me the name of the manual that I need to look in. Show us the ruling.
And Safraz will do that in the comments. So let's just, for the sake of continuing the conversation, pretend that Safraz has a point here, that these laws only apply to Muslim countries. The question remains, even in Muslim countries, how are these beautiful laws? How are these good laws? How is this a law coming from a just God?
These laws are not just in the Quran, it's even in the Torah, where God is saying, whoever blasphemes against me, kill him.
How many people have the Jews killed?
Safraz?
Or
Yeah.
so we lost 2,000
So are you
years.
telling us that the Torah is the authority? That anything in the Torah is automatically beautiful? Because I'm asking you why these laws are good or why they're beautiful, and all you can tell me is Allah said them, and Allah said them in the Torah as well.
Because they are causing corruption in the land.
So
They're
without saying
pushing
yes, he's
land.
saying yes, he supports this. So he's actually in agreement with
So
these
I
laws.
Well,
believe-
no, he said explicitly he supports the laws. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm asking him why these are good laws, and he seems to only be able to say they're good because Allah gave them.
You strict laws that it will keep the country.
So he agrees these laws are correct. So this is Islamic law. So why do Muslims lie about Islamic law? Why do they lie when it's very clear in your fiqh text that pedophilia, murder for apostasy, murder for insulting Muhammad are all perfectly legal? Even lying is 100% legal, and not only legal in Islam, lying in Islam, according to your fiqh, is obligatory upon Muslims. Lying is obligatory. Yes, it is. Now, look, we've already proven from your fiqh, from the words of your scholars, Islam Q included, everything I say is factual. You have not provided any evidence except your opinion. Lying is 120% legal in Islam. In fact, it is obligatory for you to lie.
Lloyd, I gave you 2 hadiths on the other channel where
the hadiths do not matter. That is not ijma.
Bukhari's
Hadith, that's Da'if Bukhari. Those hadiths are Da'if.
Yeah,
Bukhari is not my scholar. Bukhari is not my scholar. Those are Da'if hadiths. No, we're talking about higher authority. Higher authority.
Safraz, let me clarify what Lloyd is doing here. He's playing the same game that Muslims do. That when we quote hadith, you say that's not a reliable hadith. When we quote a scholar, you say that's not my scholar. So he's playing your game.
I gave him 2.
Well, not only that, but the ijma determines what Islamic law is. So once there's ijma on something, it doesn't matter if there are minority ahadith that contradict it. It does not matter that other things exist, because the scholars already knew about this. They weighed it all when they made their determination. So he was running to Ibn Taymiyyah on child marriage. Guess what Ibn Taymiyyah said? He said that at the age of 9, the consent of the girl is required, which means that under the age of 9, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, you don't need consent. All he was saying is that once a girl turns 9, she requires consent. And you think that that's actually proving your point in some way? That's insane.
The Sharia states, Safraz, notice the Sharia, the fiqh states, non-mujtahids are of no consequence. Just swap back for a second, Thaddeus.
Oh, yep,
the rule
sorry.
states that the opinion of a non-mujtahid is of no consequence. Are you a mujtahid, Safraz?
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
Are you a mujtahid? Are you a jurist? Are you a highly trained legal jurist in Islam? Are you a trained imam, trained scholar? No. So it says here, non-mujtahids are of no consequence. All mujtahids in the period of the thing agree on its ruling, regardless of their country, race, or group. Regardless of country, regardless of race, regardless of group. Country does not matter. And non-mujtahids, like you, are of no consequence. So all that matters, according to the ijma, is the ijma.
Yeah.
So your views do not matter. Thanks, Thaddeus. So you can switch out. What you believe is of no consequence.
No, what I was saying to you in Islam, if it says marriage can be taken, your young girls can get married, I know for a fact that is rare in the West. You don't find that in the West or these other. But I say if
that's lovely rhetoric. We want to see the evidence. I'm showing you evidence. I'm showing you the.
No,
I'm showing you the laws. Show me evidence. I don't.
It don't say Islam that you can marry young girls.
What do you mean it's not in Islam? Are all the sources we've quoted you non-Islamic sources? What you're really saying is it's not something you believe in, which is different than saying it's not something that major scholars of Islam teach.
Okay, Safraz, takfir right now anyone who says that this is in Islam. Takfir them. Do it.
I'm saying to you.
No.
Allowed.
Safraz, takfir. Now, I need to hear your takfir. Are you going to takfir them?
What's that?
Are you going to takfir anyone who says that this is Islam, that Islam teaches this?
Islam says it is okay to marry a young girl. It does agree with it. I know that.
It also says it's legal to have sex with infants as young as 1 year old in the cradle. In fact, there is no minimum age. There is no minimum age.
You pick 1 year
So,
old.
so thank you, Safraz, for admitting that this is something that Islam teaches. Now let's get to very briefly, I want to touch on Ibn Taymiyyah, who you told us that defined the article about him on Islam QA, which we did for you. And here's what he says. If a person has authority to handle the affairs or wealth of another, either as a guardian or by appointment as a proxy, it is not permissible for him to do whatever he wants. He has to choose that which is in his ward's best interest. Now, you claimed that this article would tell us that it requires the minor child's consent. In fact, what he actually said is they have to act in the child's best interest. Is it sometimes in the best interest of the child, according to the guardian's opinion, that they get married even at a very young age? I bet it sometimes is. So this doesn't actually say what you claimed it said.
What I'm saying to you, yeah, that if it's you know, if it's in telling you that it's, you know, permissible, but for what I know of, it does not happen at this time.
Okay, that's fine. So we're now in agreement that this is something that is permissible in Islam. Now we need to address the logical problem of your argument. You're saying that it's rare now. Great. It's very rare. It's very rare for someone to cut off the head of another person in the United States. Does that mean it is irrelevant whether it's moral or not?
To cut off what? The person's head in the USA?
Yes.
No.
Okay. So the rarity doesn't determine whether something's moral or not. So why are you making arguments that child marriage is rare?
Child marriage is rare. It just happens in these African worlds or these poor countries.
Fine. It's rare. I get that it's rare. That's not what I'm telling you is it's irrelevant how rare it is. What we're discussing is whether it's moral or not. So how rare it is irrelevant. So do you have is it moral? It doesn't matter if it's rare. Is it moral for an adult to marry an underaged child?
I'm going to give you two answers here. At that time, it was okay, but at this time, I don't think it is. And
the Sharia is eternal. No. It is Allah's will. It is Allah's law. It is eternal.
I don't think it's moral for this time. I don't think it's moral for this
That's your opinion. That is not the fact.
This is your opinion, Safraz. So is your opinion, what is the basis of your opinion? What in Islam tells you that it's wrong for today, but it was okay in the 8th century and apparently in the year 2002 when the article was written by Islam QA, but not okay today?
For me, if it was okay, people would be doing it here in the West, but they're not.
Muslims would be Muslims would be doing more of it. They are doing it. It does happen. Child marriages do.
Wait. In the West. No. I want don't go that way, Lloyd. I want Safraz to think about what he just said. If people aren't doing something, it's immoral, and if people are doing something in large numbers, it's moral. That's what he just said. Is that really what you want to say, Safraz? That the majority of opinion of what people do determines whether something is good or not?
Well, I believe, majority of Muslims will not even do this now.
I agree 100%. The majority of Muslims won't do it. But are you telling me that the majority of Muslims not being interested in disgusting prepubescent sex is what determines that it's immoral? Is that what determines morality? Is it the majority of opinion among faithful Muslims that's what determines what's moral and what's immoral?
No, what I'm trying to say, Teddy Ossie, is at that time it was just normal. It was happening anyway.
Okay, fine. It was first of all, that's inaccurate. But let's pretend that's accurate. It was normal then. It's not normal now. So was it moral then and not moral now because of that reason? That's what I'm asking you. Is the majority opinion about what is normal determine what is moral in Islam?
Well, you get me confused here. What I'm saying to you is not moral now. Simple.
So
Okay, why is it not moral now?
Because
why is it not moral now?
Because times have changed.
So the times change, changing changes Allah's eternal law. The God of Islam changes his mind based on what a majority of human beings believe in a given time and place.
He was saying it, that if you want to do it, you can, because it was happening at that time. That's why.
Look, if I
okay.
Look, this is
Safraz, think about what you're saying here for a minute. You're saying because a lot of people did it, Allah said it's good to do. So what you're saying is that what a lot of people were doing is what determined what Allah decides is good. That's what you're telling me. So if a lot of people were eating blue mushrooms, that would be a good and moral thing to do. If not very many people ate blue mushrooms, that would be an immoral thing to do. That's what you're telling me.
I'm not telling you that. I'm saying that it was in the scriptures of the Torah and the Quran that is okay at that time because it was happening. Okay,
you're just going in circles.
I just have to stop you. I have to stop you right there. Either bring out right now where it says you can take your penis and stick it inside a prepubescent girl in the Torah, or shut up about it being in the Torah because it's not there. So either bring it right now. No, bring me no. You are not going there. That does not say you can go and diddle them. It does not say that, you disgusting pervert. You are absolutely revolting. Every time I talk to you, you make me sick.
Let me answer.
All right, Safraz, why don't you give your closing thoughts? We're kind of just going in a circle here.
Yeah, we're just going
and I would like to give Golden Age Islam.
So what he's trying to cite is numbers that says that the girls who were taken in battle will be taken for yourselves. He thinks that means to have sex with because he's a pervert. However, there are other scriptures that talk about marriage of a woman who is a captive, and she is a woman, not a child, and it is marriage, not captive rape. You are not allowed to rape captive women in Judaism, so don't lie about it.
All right, Mary, let's have Mary Lloyd, everyone, let Safraz give his final thoughts, and then I'm going to bring Golden Age Islam into this chat because he might have some more logical thoughts than Safraz, who's just going in circles here. Okay. Go ahead, Safraz.
One more last thing. Thanks for this. I have read biblical commentaries, and I have given you, Tedios, and you know that I have given you biblical commentaries on Numbers chapter 31, verse 18. I have given you about 2-3 commentaries from biblical sources which says these girls were taken as slaves and as wives, as young little virgin girls. I've given you them, Tedios, about a month ago.
Is that your final thought? That you want to claim that Numbers is authoritative, and that's why Islamic laws are good? Is that your final thought? Is that where you want to leave us?
No, what I'm saying to you, it was in the Torah and in the Quran by the same God who agreed with it. But at this time, it is not happening. But it was happening at that time. In Israel, it was happening, and it's happening in Arabia. It was happening in England. King Richard II, died at 6 years old.
Okay, Safraz. Yeah. So is this your final thought then? Is this the thought you want to leave us on? That child marriage used to be common, so it was okay. It's not common today, so it's no longer okay. Is that your final thought?
For me, Teddy,
because I'm just trying to summarize your argument for us.
Yeah, my argument is, it was happening so much there around the world, but at this time today is rare.
So Muhammad's example is no longer valid. So Muhammad's example has now expired, and now it's wrong. So Muhammad is now immoral.
It was happening at that time around the
so
world.
Muhammad's example doesn't. So Muhammad's example has expired, and now Muhammad's example would be immoral and wrong.
It was not his example. It was normal.
Muhammad married a 6-year-old. This is now legal in Islam to have young wives who are minors, who are immature, and to have sex with them. Minors who are immature.
I told you, Tedios, 100 times.
That's not what we're discussing. So Muhammad's example is now wrong. You're saying Muhammad's example is now immoral.
No.
All right, Safraz.
So
give us your final thought.
So he's lying.
So Lloyd, don't respond to whatever he says. Just let Safraz have his final thought, I just want to clarify what his position is, because I can't even figure out what his position is. So Safraz, is your position, and you can just answer yes or no, you don't have to restate your position, is this an accurate representation of your position, that it was very common for people to have young marriages in ancient times, and for that reason Allah allowed it then, but it's no longer common, so Allah no longer allows it?
No.
Okay, if that's not an accurate statement of your position, then please state your position in one sentence like I just did.
My statement is, Allah allowed it in the Torah and in the Quran that it was okay at that time to do it, but it's happening. But if people are not happy with it today, there is nothing wrong with it. Don't do it. There's no law which says that you have to do it.
Okay, so
you have to marry kids. You don't have to.
Okay, I asked you to say it in one sentence, so let me just repeat your idea with slightly different words to make sure I understand you. So your statement is that Allah allowed this, and He never disallowed it, but people are not obligated to do it if they personally find it offensive. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for stating your position. So just so everyone's clear, Safraz has agreed with us that it is permitted in Islam, but is not obligatory, and that people should probably follow the local laws, which generally forbid this. So we are in agreement that it is permitted by Islam, but individuals generally won't do this because individuals generally are not as disgusting as the God who allows this. Thank you very much, Safraz.
Enough. Look, I'd like to get back onto something more rational.
Yeah, well, I want
to...
So I wanted to...
Yeah, if I can, look. Safraz is utilizing a technique in Islam called adab al-jadal. It is what they call disputation, what we would call disputation. It is built on rhetoric and sophistry. It's a very, very sophisticated form of lying. I covered this with Thaddeus in a previous show. Look at our talk on how Islam redefines lying or truth to allow lying. So remember, lying is not only legal in Islam, it is obligatory. So it's a very sophisticated set of rhetorical practices allowing them to lie. But also remember, it's designed to dispute. It's not designed to find truth. It is designed to undermine, to confuse. Within the Islamic law on lying, confusion is considered a benefit to Islam. So therefore, he will want to confuse. So remember, at no point did he give a straight answer. He doesn't give a yes or a no. So this is what is happening. So Palestine, you are lying. So yes, that's exactly the case. We've shown that in Islamic law, it is perfectly legal to do all of these things that we discussed. So I'll stop here.
Yes, so I wanted to give Golden Age Islam a chance to speak. He joined a while ago and was very patiently waiting for Safraz to finish. So I'd like to give him the opportunity to comment now.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. I wanted to make three basic points here. First of one is to explain why where his thoughts come from, people like Safraz or generally a lot of Muslims, how they behave and what they understand about the religion. That's one. Number two, why they cannot agree in such an open debate. If, let's say, they're presented with some facts. And number three, I would like to clarify that how actually there is a difference between what Islam says and how actually Muslims live their lives. I myself, I'm an ex-Muslim. So I can shed some light on these three aspects.
Excellent. We'd love to hear your perspective.
Yeah. So what happens is that first part of the answer is a majority of the Muslims, I think, which is true for every religion, do not know the intricacies of the religion. And that is true for 80 to 90% of Muslims, especially those who are born in Islamic countries, like myself, because you are raised in an environment where you get a very filtered view of the religion. You are always taught the good things, and these fiqhs that Lloyd has been pulling up, these are very, you could say, cryptic, as in the sense that people do not have access to these books. In fact, if you go back, there was a time when printing books was a big problem, and I'm not a believer of any religion at this point. But when the printing press came in, it had a lot of impact on Christianity. Similarly, internet is kind of serving that. So the point here is most of the Muslims, 80 to 90%, do not know of their fiqh. So, for example, when this information about child marriage or lying, for example, the hiyal and all those things is
Wow,
presented.
you actually know about hiyal. Do you know that you're the very first Muslim I've ever heard say that word? The first in years.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We are never told about this. So, for example, let me give you an example. Growing up, we never had access to Bukhari or Muslim. Nobody had it. It's just present in the mosques or people who are the top alims, and it's like a club. It's like a membership club. So people outside that club do not get access to it, and they only know some parts of it. And so what happens is when you present them, there is a cognitive dissonance that happens, and this is what was happening with Safraz, because they're caught in a situation. Now, here's the example. Imagine you are in a situation where a mob or somebody kidnaps your child and asks you to do something. You literally have to do it because their life is on the stake. The concept is similar here. It's very hard for any Muslim to really say anything bad or acknowledge even a single bit of badness in religion or the Prophet.
No, it's illegal. It's actually illegal. It is treason,
Yes.
effectively, to reveal the Sharia, the fiqh, and also it is illegal to insult Islam.
I mean, insulting is yet another extreme. I'm saying even acceptance of a fault cannot...
Well, doubt is illegal. Anything that would cause doubt, anything that indicates doubt is illegal.
Yeah. So now, it's that fear, it's that sheer fear of God punishing them, that even if logic comes to somebody's head, they cannot accept it. So that's why all this concept of gymnastics comes in, and the way, for example, Safraz was jumping from one to, and I don't blame him. I don't blame majority of the Muslims for that, because they don't know any of these things growing up, especially people who grew up in the West. I mean, I live in the West right now, but I grew up there. Even there, we didn't know. So let alone people who grew up in West. But the third point I wanted to make is sometimes people start associating these teachings with Muslims. And I wanted to say that very clearly here because the audience sees it. I see that definitely you guys are all Christians. I would like to request, don't make it against Muslims. Majority of Muslims are better than these laws. The people that you meet in your life, your friends across, they do not marry children. They abhor it. Like, I don't know anybody
Look, they may not actively be participating. However, they might in the future because they also not actively fighting against it.
If I could just chime in here, I actually agree 100% that 99% of Muslims are much better than the laws that their so-called God brings upon them. So I agree completely on that point.
So one thing that is important to realize is that all Muslims feel like they need to bring about the state of Sharia, and that the world should be brought into Sharia, even though they don't really know what's in it. And even though personally they might have personal moral disgust at practices of the Sharia, they still feel like Allah wants to bring about the Sharia. So they will work for something, the results of which they would abhor in a lot of ways. But also, I actually ask Muslims all the time, tell me a way in which you personally are morally worse than Muhammad. What evil act have you done that Muhammad has not done? And how are you more of a sinner than Muhammad, who is your perfect example? Because I absolutely believe that the overwhelming majority, 99.99% of Muslims, are better than Muhammad. I absolutely believe that.
I would add the response would be that they do want Sharia because they don't know the complete Sharia. So it's like saying they only know the 10%. So they think, okay, this is the good bit and we want it here. They don't know these rulings, these harsh rulings. For example, this underage argument, I am willing to bet if you put it in front of majority of Muslims, first of all, they deny. It's a complete denial that this never happened because they're never told that those ahadiths, it takes somebody to actually go and read those books, which are not even there. So when they're trying to say, we want Sharia, they don't know these parts of Sharia. So you can't really hold them accountable. It's only those da'is or those top ulama who really know the other majority is just people thinking,
they are still a threat because they are actively trying to bring about this Sharia state, this caliphate. Right, so they're still a threat. They must still be stopped.
That's fine.
Well, I'm sure that Golden doesn't think that we should be encouraging people to stay in Islam.
Yeah.
Please continue, Golden. I'm finding your perspective very helpful here.
Yeah. So I would say whenever there is an argument like this, first of all, there is a stages. There's stages. First is denial. Number two is denial because they don't know. Then is when you're presented with these facts, books that you're carrying on. Then it comes down to which fiqh or madhab you follow. So, for example, this guy was quoting Ibn Taymiyyah, and again, whereas Ibn Taymiyyah was a fringe scholar for a huge amount of time. It is just in the last 100 years when all this Islamism came about that Ibn Taymiyyah is tied to this jihad, because in all other fiqh madhahibs, Ibn Taymiyyah's standings are considered weak. So if you follow Shafi, Hanafi, any of that.
That is false. That is entirely false.
That Ibn Taymiyyah is considered high in all four fiqhs?
This is ijma. It is standard across all the four schools of fiqh. His teachings on jihad are the orthodox standard across all the madhab.
You misheard him. He said on things other than jihad.
Yeah.
He said
other than, so for example, marriage or
his writings on Islamic polemics against Christianity are the standard. His writings on Sab al-Rasul are the standard. So unfortunately, no. They might claim that they don't like what he says, but they follow it to the letter.
No, that okay.
But yeah, he was just saying specifically on marriage. But the funny thing is, we've all dealt with Safraz before, and he just lies about his sources constantly. So he says, "Oh, Ibn Taymiyyah has this." Well, all Ibn Taymiyyah said is that if a girl is over 9, then she needs to consent by her silence.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it. He didn't say that if she's under 9, she can't be married off. That was not his position. He just put, because of the various ahadith about a virgin's consent being her silence, well, then sometimes virgins need to be consent. So how old should they be when that happens? Well, it's 9 because Aisha was 9 when she consented by her silence, according to Ibn Taymiyyah. But he's going to that saying that, oh, you shouldn't marry off any little girls. But all Ibn Taymiyyah is saying is if she's over 9, she needs to be silent if she's a virgin during her marriage ceremony.
Yeah, that's in the Sharia.
For that to be her
I can
consent.
Confirm for you, if we go into the Reliance and go through the 120-something pages on the laws of marriage, that is in the Sharia. That ruling is fiqh. It is ijma. It is the consensus.
Yeah, and that was just what I was telling him about. Yeah, that's what I was telling him when he was going to Ibn Taymiyyah. I'm like, Ibn Taymiyyah does not help you here. You're just lying about what he says. But Safraz does.
Palestine just says, I don't have time to investigate scholars who are wrong, who are corrupt, who are not Muslim. So now he's just gone and thrown his entire scholarship under the bus. The scholars are wrong. The scholars are corrupt. The scholars are not Muslim. So, which is fascinating. You see, but now these scholars have influenced over 1 billion Muslims. Over 1 billion. What are you doing, Palestine, to correct these errors? What are you doing to warn these over 1 billion Muslims that have been influenced with fake Islam, with false Islam by these scholars? What are you doing to tell them the correct Islam? What are you doing to teach them the correct way? Because they've been lied to by your own scholars. So what are you doing? Tell us what your efforts are to correct this falsehood of your scholars.
Now that he has declared takfir against all scholars of Islam, my curiosity is who in the first 1,000 years of Islam was an actual Muslim?
Yeah, nobody apparently, according to this guy.
My position
can we, go ahead and go ahead. Let's get back to what you were telling us about.
So what I was trying is Ibn Taymiyyah, for the last 100 to 200 years, it has been, as the Islamist movement arose, he's been a central figure. These people are called, let's say, Salafis or Ahl Hadith. But if you were to sit with Hanafis, Shafis, who are Muqallid, Lloyd, I'm sure you would know that. Muqallid and
follow Taqlid.
Yeah, Taqlid, exactly. So if you were to talk to Hanafis or Shafis, they do not hold Ibn Taymiyyah in legal rulings as a very high scholar. This has only started
in some legal rulings. They deny him in some
just
let
him go. You're quibbling over minor details. I'd like to.
Yeah, exactly.
No, these details actually do matter at the end
of the day. For
day.
example, and I'll tell you, so there is a huge fight between people who are called Ahl Hadith in the Indo-Pak subcontinent, for example, versus people who are Barelvis or Deobandis. They do takfir on each other. The Ahl Hadith quote Ibn Taymiyyah for jihad and some of these rulings. And Hanafis, of course, you are absolutely right. It's not for 100% of the rulings, but I'm saying like since you said who is the bigger scholar, so Ibn Taymiyyah is given less value compared to, let's say, Imam Abu Hanifa or Imam Shafi or Imam Hanbal. So that is what my position was only.
So Ibn Taymiyyah is a Sheikh al-Islam. He's one of the 27 or 28 or 29, depending on which count you take. Sheikh
Yes.
al-Islam, of the, let's call it the 30 most influential scholars in Islam,
Yes.
whose rulings have become ijma, orthodoxy. However, above them are the four mujtahids mutlaq, right? Those are the founders of the schools of fiqh. And then above
rulings
that,
are not ijma.
their rulings have become part of the ijma. I didn't say every single ruling, but those rulings have become part of the ijma. Ibn Taymiyyah's teachings on jihad are 100% legit. They are nasty. I can bring up his books. They are nasty, filthy, violent, and barbaric.
Exactly.
And they are 100% normal Sunni Islam. They're not extremist. They are normal Sunni Islam. Above the four mujtahids mutlaq, who are above the Sheikh al-Islam, is Ghazali, the Hujjat. So there's a precedence: Muhammad, Ghazali, the four Imams, and then the Sheikh al-Islam, and then a whole bunch of other Muslim scholars. So Ibn Taymiyyah, unfortunately, holds a very, very powerful place of influence in Islam.
If I may here, for example, on the takfir and jihad, Ibn Taymiyyah was the first person who introduced the concept of jihad against Muslims. He said that Muslims, and this is a big problem. So, for example, you see these in the last years, you see all these suicide bombings that took place in the Western world, but most of them, in a higher percentage, took place in the Islamic world. The root and I'm just trying to point you towards an area of study where he has a fatwa that says people who are Muslims but who have deviated from the true path, jihad is obligatory against them also. Now, this standing position is against all other four fiqhs of school, and they do not agree with Ibn Taymiyyah on this. This is a big point of difference of jihad. According to all four, jihad does not happen against Muslims, but Ibn Taymiyyah was the one who said, okay, in the modern world, people have left the true feeling, go back to the self, so you need to have jihad against them. There's a huge difference between all other four versus Ibn Taymiyyah on where jihad is applicable.
So just to take a quick technical aside here, someone asked to kind of adjust the volumes. There aren't actually any settings directly in StreamYard to do that. So if Lloyd, if you could bump the volume up a bit on your end.
Yeah, I've just put my mic closer to my face and I've turned up the gain.
Okay, I've moved mine away from my face. Does that help everybody?
Yep. You now sound more at the same level. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I just moved my mic. Sorry about that, guys.
But I would like to conclude by saying that, again, majority of people are better than these harsh rulings. Majority of Muslims that you meet anywhere, even in the Islamic world, they do not want to marry little kids. They do not want to chop off hands. So whenever this debate comes up, just please be objective in terms of being...
That may be, but they're also not going to stand against the Ummah when that happens. They're not going to speak out. They're not going to prevent it. They're not going to save you. They are going to support it.
Not necessarily. You cannot say that about 1.8 billion people. There are people who want change. There are people who have...
That may be. However, Look, to take over a country, if you look at the communist revolutions, right? Communism is predicated on taking over a country, gaining power violently, and holding that power. You don't need more than 3% of a country to follow an ideology to take over a country. 3%. You don't need 90% of the country. 3% is all it takes. So the other 97% are useless, irrelevant if they don't take action, and they are not taking action.
It's fine. It's fine, but doesn't mean that 1.8 billion people are bad people.
And I agree 100%.
We're talking about,
and just I agree 100%, and that's why we're here. Actually, at least me personally, I'm not here because I hate Islam or I want to make fun of people. I'm here because I believe that the vast majority of Muslims are victims of the religion. That they are people who want to be good. They're people who want to seek after God. But they're trapped in a system that doesn't allow them to actually understand what that means. That they're trapped in a system of rituals as opposed to a system of morality. So I agree 100% that the vast majority of Muslims, 99% or more, are better than their religion, that they are very, that, you know, they're decent people
No,
who don't
they're also in denial
believe
about
in
their
these
religion.
things. But Lloyd is also correct that, you know, that these are people who they don't have any power to stand up against the people in control necessarily.
But they're also in full denial. They will,
and most are ignorant,
deny.
just like Golden Age said. You know, most Muslims are very ignorant of this, and that's not unique to Islam. That's not necessarily an insult on Islam in and of itself. I mean, most people,
But also,
whether
look, the problem
theists
is we are viewing Islam as a religion. It is not. Islam does not define itself in its own sources as a religion. Islam defines itself as a political system, very similar to communism or fascism or Nazism. It is very much a totalitarian political system in its own definitions.
No disagreement there. There's no disagreement there. That's absolutely, you're right. Yeah. But for example, Muslims suffer a lot more because of let's take the case of women in Islamic countries. Now, 50% of the population, that's women. And they have to go through all these problems. Now, if you were to argue that who is facing more trouble because of that? Is it Western women who face more problem because of Islam? Or is it Muslim women who face more problem because of Islam? So my answer would be that's 900 million women who face persecution at the hands of Islam.
And I agree. And like I said, that's why I'm doing this, is because I want to make a difference. I mean, I'm not delusional enough to think that I can reach 900 billion people or 900 million people by any means. But I'm here because I want to make a difference, because I actually do care about the fate of Muslims, and I believe that they're victims of this religion by and large.
Yeah.
One of the most revolting things that I had discovered whenever I was just learning about why people stay with this awful system is that a lot of Muslim women in the East honestly believe that Western women are being forced to walk around in less than complete covering in order to be attacked and raped, because they can't imagine that you can just live your life in shorts and a t-shirt, or just regular pants and a short sleeve shirt, or running clothes and go out and run and not be in danger and not live your life subjected to these kind of activities and behaviors and everything. So they imagine that the Western, because Islam specifically teaches that the best people of all are Muslims, and of course the very best of the Muslims were the Salafs, right? So they honestly think that they're the people around them, that whenever they are in danger going outside, if they took off, their hijab, they would be in danger in a lot of places. You cannot just walk around as a woman with your face showing and your hair showing and your elbows showing without being in danger. And they assume that everyone else is in danger too. They think that all the other women are being attacked.
No, they've also been taught that we are filthy, that we are dirty, immoral, and evil. And they've been taught this since they were 4 or 5 years old when they started going to madrasa. The well is poisoned, so they already think from the beginning that everything we do is dirty. So unfortunately, this indoctrination, and they believe that all of this evil is correct, is right. The moral system has been so warped in so many cases. Otherwise, why would they have to deceive? There's also, unfortunately, that. So there's the rose-colored glasses, and there's the fact that these people have also been heavily indoctrinated into this evil and see it as good.
Islam is the pinnacle of misogyny. All religions have misogyny, and you guys might disagree because you have a certain belief system, but that's the root. That's actually a very central figure in any religion to control the woman. So, and Islam is like the pinnacle of that ideology.
Well, let's turn to what it says about women in the Bible and the creation of women.
I'm sure I can go back to my original presentation.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We'll do your original presentation a different day, Lloyd. We'll restart from the beginning. I think we weren't very far in, so we'll just restart from the beginning rather than having this long side conversation in the middle. But I think this is good. Maybe I'll chop off that first portion and just make this a Muslim declares the beauty of the Sharia law or something along those lines, because I think it was a very good discussion.
What did we get out of that discussion? What did the audience get out of that discussion?
I think that they got out of it that he anytime any specific, he would declare that the Sharia law was beautiful and we should bring it about, and then he'd just deny that parts of the Sharia law were Sharia law over and over and over again. And he is someone who will campaign possibly for the rest of his life, unless he leaves Islam, which is quite possible because he's now at that incredibly stage where he's just screaming out. This Safraz will send me 6 or 8 emails in a day, not even in the same chain, all right? Just random emails, and I'll log in. I'll be like, oh my gosh. I'll reply to them whenever, if I do at all, and he'll just send me 6 more, right? So he is absolutely kicking against the goads, shall we say, and he knows that it's false. But he may spend the rest of his life in denial and trying to bring about this Sharia that he finds personally reprehensible. And I think that we have all seen here clearly that Muslims who are better than their Sharia are nevertheless in a position where they feel like they must work to bring it about and say that it's a good thing, but then just deny the parts of it that they don't like for convenience.
So Golden Islam says he has to drop off. Thank you for joining us today. I really enjoyed hearing your perspective. Yeah, you're welcome back anytime. Any final thoughts from you?
No, I've looked at Lloyd's work. I think you're doing a great job bringing the resources online. Especially, I think you've started sharing them on the Google Drive. I think that's amazing. People never had access to that. But yeah, I just request, please, let's all critically analyze Islam, but not demonize Muslims. Yeah.
And yeah, I think we can all agree with that. Thank you again for joining us today.
Yeah, I want to save them. I want to save them out of this awful, awful thing that they're trapped in.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
So we had a super chat earlier from Rashad Perry. Good job to Lloyd, Reasoned, and the female participant. That would be Mary. Safraz is a dangerous person. Thank you very much for that donation.
And that is true. Those ideas perpetuated like that, motivated as he is and committed as he is, those are dangerous ideas. He's going to want to make this a reality.
Yeah, in all seriousness, Safraz is on a path. One of two things is going to happen. Either he's going to realize how ridiculous what he's fighting for is and abandon it, or there's a very high probability that he will become a jihadi. Alonzo is a weak coward. He would never do that. All he can do is sit in comments. Safraz is bold. Safraz is very motivated. He isn't necessarily very good at making arguments, but he is confident. He does have a lot of zeal for his religion, and he's just going to continue to pursue that. And he's either going to reach the point where he realizes how ridiculous this is, where he realizes how he has to lie constantly and abandon that, or he's going to become a jihadi. And I think that's a reality.
I mean, every reference he told us to go look at, we proved him wrong. I mean, seriously, it's like how, good grief, how dumb do you have to be?
Oh, I also want to say something very quickly about him claiming that in numbers that was about having intercourse with underage girls. If you go to Deuteronomy 21:11, which gives you the laws if you're going to marry or if you want to have intercourse with a captive, okay? It starts out, if you notice among the captives a beautiful woman and are attracted to her, you may take her as your wife. That word is used of adults only. It's exclusive to adults.
Yeah, I did a very lengthy 3-hour series, I think, on sex and marriage in the Talmud, because I know that people love to talk about the Talmud and compare it to Islam, and they are nothing, absolutely nothing alike. This is not to say the Talmud is holy. Of course, it is. The Sharia is the Talmud of Islam. It's the Talmud of the Quran, just like the Talmud is the Talmud of the Torah. But the two are nothing alike. The Sharia corrupts and inverts and just it's shocking to see how it just inverts the laws of the Torah.
And obviously we're not teaching on this specific passage, so we won't go into great detail here, but I did want to point out that great care is taken here to ensure that the male being marrying this captive is not doing so because they're physically attracted to her. There's great effort placed to make the woman as unattractive as possible so that it can only be done for a pure motive.
Mm-hmm.
This is in contrast to the teachings that we just looked at from the Sharia, where all that matters is the guardian's opinion. The woman has no say in it whatsoever.
Yeah, and notice that if you have taken a woman who is captive, you can only take her as a wife. You can't keep her as a slave. That was abolished with this Mosaic law. You could not have a slave who has a different status than a wife. The difference between a wife and a concubine in the Mosaic law is whether or not she gets a divorce payment if she's divorced. And here, she does not get a divorce payment if she's divorced because she was not married with a dowry. So you cannot have sex slaves. You cannot buy and sell sex slaves. None of these things are allowed. You cannot treat her as a slave, even if you don't want her. Yeah, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
If it's 20 years later, then doesn't the law change?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. That was in the olden times, 20 years ago.
Mary, don't you know that Deuteronomy was abrogated when Moses changed his mind?
Yeah, because that's how it works.
Yeah. I mean,
but we'll close out here in a second, but just wanted to take a few relevant comments from the audience. Cordy, to your point, Lloyd, said in 1940 only 7% of Germans identified as Nazis, but how did that turn out? To your point that only a couple percent of people have to believe in the violent commands of the Sharia for them to become a reality. There's a question here. Is there any way to amend the Sharia law? The America's Constitution can be amended by 3 different methods. Can Sharia
Muslims
be amended?
must respond violently to any attempt with violence. They must respond with aggression, harsh language, and violence if there's any attempt to alter these laws. Because you must understand that imposing the Sharia is the Great Commission of Islam. This is their Great Commission, to command the right and forbid the wrong. In other words, to impose the Sharia and prevent anything that is not Sharia.
And as I was going to say, this goes to the Muslim understanding of truth. We were going to get into this a little. You'll have to stay tuned for that to be rescheduled, the original presentation. But the Muslim understanding of truth is very different than the Christian or Western understanding, where most people in the Western world, unless they assert there is no such thing as truth at all, they assert to something like a correspondence theory, where something's true if it matches something in objective reality. Whereas Islam's theory of truth is that truth is handed down by Allah, and it's determined by the consensus of the scholars. So it can't change, because if it were to change, that would mean truth changed. If the consensus on laws changes, if you have amendments to the Constitution, so to speak, that means that truth changed, that Allah is not truth anymore, because He is the one who gave this.
Correct. Yeah, this would contradict Allah's own word. Yeah.
So Villainous said that I think you should open it up at the end next time. Well, that's what we normally do, but I brought this up because I wanted to explain why we brought Safraz up.
Safraz has never agreed, and finally, so we had to take it.
Yes, exactly. Lloyd has spent the last 2 to 3 years asking every Muslim he sees to come up live and defend the beauty of the Sharia law, and no one was ever willing to do it. Literally, no one ever was willing to come up before. So when Safraz says, I want to come up to declare that Islamic law is beautiful, so I put in the chat, we'll bring you up, but only if that's what you actually talk about. And to his credit, he came up and he tried to defend that idea. So we had to take that opportunity. So that's why we got off topic today.
I think that you can chop off pieces of live streams. So you might want to just chop it off to the beginning of the discussion so that then he can do his whole presentation and people won't think that there's repeats.
Yes, yeah, we might do that. I'll have to look at what it looks like, by actually playing it back. But I might do that and just start it at when Safraz comes up, and then we'll just.
I did say that
first
will is
section.
manipulation of reality, and I mean we saw plenty of that kind of behavior, that refusal to accept truth and to manipulate reality with words, because logos is to seek the truth, to speak the truth, and will is to deny the truth and attempt to manipulate it, to basically use word magic to deny reality. And that's what Safraz was doing.
Yeah, and we do have a request to, it says, what's the link to come online in another session? Would be good to go back to the Regensburg lecture. I'll have to discuss with Lloyd. I don't think that he's, prepared to spend another hour here. So we'll reschedule that for another time, and I'll announce that as soon as we have a specific time for that. One more question here from John Smith. How long did it take to develop any particular school of Islamic law? Do we know anything about that?
So for instance, the Talmud took 500-600 years to develop, right? So I mean, there was a core development period, for instance, of about 400 years, and another couple of hundred years of refinement. Now, the Sharia started in roughly the 800s, the middle 800s, but the major scholar Shafi, who developed the philosophy that is current today, was not accepted for roughly a century, almost a century. So talking 850, the middle of the 9th century, and it was finished in roughly the early 12th century. However, certain refinement and development continued until the early 16th century. So there are certain pieces that were still added up to the 1500s. So you can definitely, or at least the late 1400s. So you can say the Sharia took roughly, in total, you're looking at 800s, 900s, 1000s, 1100s, 1200s, 1300, 1400, 1500, 800 to 900 years.
Yeah, and to be clear, it didn't necessarily start when Islam started either, and that
No, much of the law goes back to tribal law prior to Islam. So basically Yemeni tribal law. There's also certain elements of Roman law, and of course Jewish law. I mean, which they've corrupted. Yeah, sorry, that is.
Yeah, I was just going to say that this is true of all Islam. We kind of have the standard narrative in our mind, even if we reject it. Even if we reject the details, we kind of still have that framework in our mind that, Islam came into the scene all of a sudden in a short period of time. We might dispute the exact details, but in reality, I think it was a system that developed very slowly over a long period of time, probably predating Muhammad, if that is actually the founder of the religion, and incorporating all these elements into it. And then it continued to change, especially in response to polemics against it. People saying, this isn't revelation from God. This is just copied tales of the ancients. Oh, well, we need to come up with something to dispute that. I know, Muhammad was illiterate. He couldn't have copied stories because he was illiterate. That kind of thing. Why should we follow your prophet? He didn't work any miracles. All the biblical prophets worked miracles, especially Jesus. He had the most spectacular miracles, which authenticated himself. I know the Quran says 100 times that he didn't work any miracles, but guess what? He actually did. Just read all these other texts that we've just written that talk about all the miracles he performed.
In fact, when Islam became an empire, they had to develop a political system to manage that empire. And they borrowed that from the Neoplatonists. They specifically took from Plato's idea of the perfect state, and they modified that. The scholar that did that is called Al-Farabi, and I will be talking about him briefly in my discussion. That is, maybe we can do a series on the Sharia, like I'm doing with Jay, but actually stick closer to the actual talk that I want to give. Let's not put the cart before the horse, but put the horse before the cart, and just that might be interesting because there's a lot. They stole a lot from the Greeks in that respect, and from many other cultures. Yes, Mary?
Oh, I was going to say that Abu Huraira brought like 6,000 or 7,000 ahadith, okay? And he is like the number one reporter of a hadith from among the companions of Muhammad. Can anyone tell me for how many years he knew Muhammad? Number one
Not
reporter.
at all, I believe. Not at all, I think. Yeah, I've read this. I can't remember the facts, but yeah, it's
2.5 years. Two and a half years were all the time that he had with Muhammad. Yet he's the number one source for a hadith. And if you go back to the early stuff, the earlier you go in his career, suddenly the same people who, even among the people who are like, oh yes, I converted to Islam, I was the first person ever from Medina who traveled to Mecca and converted immediately. And yet you'll find that he says almost nothing about the first 10 years or so of Muhammad's career, because Muhammad changed his theology so radically, because you can see it in the Quran, it changes. There are these layers of revision. And if you cut down to the bottom layer of the cake, what's being taught is fantastically different than what's on the top, much less the icing and the decorations and the candles and everything else. It's everything beyond that. It's so far different from what is actually at that base layer of the cake.
Yeah, and actually the narrations about Muhammad become more detailed as you go into the future. As you go further back, there's less detail, and they start to add detail the further away you get from the time of Muhammad, which is very, very suspect.
Absolutely. Just a couple more comments here.
So, yeah, we should call it. This went a lot longer than anticipated. I had 23 slides I was going to go through, just 23, which is...
I know. You said this might just be an hour, and now we're at 2.5. But these comments will be very quick. So I wanted to bring up this one. Brother Lloyd, your expertise is top notch. Thanks for your participation in the program. Vilna said extra Quranic sources of Sharia will be very interesting, Lloyd. So that's an endorsement to do that.
It's weird how that's not really been done. It's just that certain people will not be named said that certain material I wanted to talk about was too much of a lecture and a little boring. But it's actually critical for understanding, because it's not. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, no worries. My audience here is used to boring lectures.
I've never been accused of being boring.
This is the channel where we get to go into the academic depth of the topic, not just put out a sound bite here.
I mean, you can, when you go into the Greek sources that the Islamic scholars took, like if you go into Al-Farabi, and you go into how he modeled the Islamic state, the structure of the Islamic state is modeled after the Greek concept of the perfect state by Plato and the Neoplatonists, you actually start to see that one of the, not the only, but one of the models of Muhammad is clearly a Greek Neoplatonic figure, and a cultic figure as well, So you will actually notice the parallels with this particular Greek individual and Muhammad, and we can do that in the future.
Absolutely. Yep. Carol says, we love boring. Boring is where the info is. So, now we... sorry, a couple super chats came in, so you're going to have to stay a couple minutes longer here because I have to take those. Christopher Hussain said, on Deuteronomy 21:11, we need to link it to Genesis 3:6. When you see a woman, desire and take. It's the same Hebrew from the woman in the garden. It's negative. And, I can't speak to this exact passage because I would have to, confirm that, but I can say that this is definitely true of the Bible in general. It's strangely enough to Muslims, it's one cohesive narrative. It doesn't just randomly jump around, randomly repeat things. Things are in the Bible for a reason. Everything's linked together from creation to revelation. It's one continuous story, so everything connects together. So I can't speak of the exact verbs in those passages, but definitely an idea to keep in mind.
Yeah, and this see, desire, and take, what comes after this is the remedy for this. Is the remedy for this see, desire, and desire to take that might be highly unwholesome. Well, then you need to do all of these things first to make sure that it isn't unwholesome like this.
Thank you for that. Boris asked, how did you learn all this, Lloyd? If you could give a 5-sentence summary?
Approximately.
Take as much time as you want, but
prior to 2015, I knew that there was more to Islam than Quran and Hadith. They want us to believe that Islam is just the Quran and Hadith. It is absolutely not. The Quran and Hadith are superseded by later texts, the Sharia, the fiqh, the Islamic law. 2015, fall of Raqqa, ISIS documents captured. I had access to a trove of documents, which was what the ISIS jihadis were studying in their seminaries, and there were a number of these Islamic law texts, and I had never heard of these, and I was like, why have we not heard of these? And I started reading them, and they started to give far better explanation of what Islam was, how they behaved, what they did, why they did it, how they believed it. It expanded upon the Hadith, it expanded upon the Quran, and I started to learn these things. I read them intently, and I started to find the other texts and the different scholars that were authoritative in, and that's when I learned this. So it's lost 7 years roughly. I've been studying Islam longer than that, but the last 7 years, the Sharia I started reading in depth, and I have an entire library of 1,400 books that you can access, 15 gigabytes worth of these docs, and check in my videos for the links, and you'll be able to access the relevant ones there.
Excellent. Yes, I put that in the description of this video as well already, but I'll put it in a pinned comment too. Just a couple quick comments. Whatever this is, boring it is not. Well, thank you, Marian, for that. Troy English gave a super chat. Keep the truth coming. Absolutely, Troy. That is the plan here. Thank you very much for your support. It's always good to hear that people are enjoying this material, that people are finding it beneficial, and I just ask in return that you take it and apply it. You use this material in your conversations with Muslims, because that's what this is really about. This is about reaching Muslims. If people find it entertaining, great. If people find it boring but useful, that's all right as well, because what we really are aiming here is to provide material that helps people witness to Muslims.
I also hope that our discussion, I know it was a 3-on-1, people can view it that way, but I hope we didn't come across as ganging up on Safraz. He's been a pain in my bum for, excuse my French, for a long time. And I've wanted to have this guy up to talk about this. And I hope it sounded as if we were asking questions and trying to get to the bottom of things rather than ganging up on him, that we gave him sufficient time to talk, that it sounded like we had a reasonable dialogue. I hope that didn't come across as us just beating up on him.
Well, I think that whenever I asked him to do takfir, and he just suddenly reversed. Did you guys notice that? Whenever
of course, he's lying.
declare takfir, whenever you declare takfir, you're basically saying that these people are apostates. They do not represent Islam. They're wrong. And he was saying that this is not Islam. This is not Islam. It does not represent Islam. These are wrong beliefs. You shouldn't teach these and say that's Islam. And so I said, fine. So declare takfir. Say that all these folks are not Muslim, not true Muslims, and he would not. He immediately changed course, and that's why anytime he was said, okay, stand up for what you're saying right now, he'd just run away and say no. I am desperate to talk to him about the paraclete, which is the whole reason I joined the chat. But of course, that was not the subject.
We didn't get there, so next time.
That's fine. That's totally fine.
Well, Palestine did the very same. He was like, these are not true Muslims. I mean,
Palestine is a... Sure. Yeah, he's a Quranist, so he is going to affirm Quran alone, which does not even really exist.
Of them, we know that that's just an excuse.
Well, there are new groups.
If Muslims had to criticize the Bible, it's like me saying, "Sorry, no, I'm a Gospel of John onlyist." That's the only. No, I'm a Gospel of John onlyist. No, only that. Not that verse in John. I don't do that one. I don't. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
Well, there are groups of people now who call themselves Muslims who really do, and some of them like wildly reinterpret things in other ways. And there are chat rooms, debate rooms where the Quranists and the Sunnis and Shias all fight with the Quran only Muslims who say that no.
To do that.
It is apostasy. But the question for them always is: so, did Allah come and just not have it? Were there no Muslims before just now recently when this movement started? What, are you telling me that these people were not true Muslims? Because none of them had your position. There's not one group in the first 1,000 years plus of Islam that said, no, I'm going to look at the Quran only and that's my only source. there's nothing like that. Like
Yep.
nothing.
You know, if you really want to see inconsistency in Islam, talk about the story of Abraham who destroyed all of the idols in the Kaaba. Remember, he sent Hagar to the desert where she found the well, but there was no Kaaba. And then Abraham repaired the Kaaba, which had been built by Adam, but there was no Kaaba at the well of Zamzam because Hagar went there. There was no Kaaba. So Abraham had to build the Kaaba, which was not there, but he repaired the Kaaba and then he had smashed all the idols. But Abraham was already a believer by then, so why would he put idols in the Kaaba that he just built? You know, but he'd repaired the Kaaba, so if the Kaaba had been repaired and it wasn't there, why would he put idols inside it? And if he'd built it new, why would he put idols inside it to smash them? Because he was a pagan when he was already a Muslim. You know, that whole story, that is one of the weakest things in Islam. I mean, that story, when you show them the chronology, how stupid it is, it's like, man, that's indefensible.
Yeah, I definitely want to respect you two's time. So let me just read a couple quick comments and then we'll sign off here. Blue Reaper said, could you explain Genesis 18? If you ask a specific question about it in the comments afterwards, I'd be happy to address that. Or if you just want me to, give a summary of the text, I can do that as well, but I have a feeling you probably want to ask a specific question. So if you could just do that in the comments afterwards, I'd be happy to address that.
Carol B makes a very good point. They will declare that most Muslims don't follow the rules, but when pressed, the Ummah closes ranks, and that is a fact. That is a fact. They will close ranks, and they all follow the same tune all of a sudden.
John Smith asked a rhetorical question: how can a Muslim be a Quranist? How did he get the Quran in his hands in the first place? It's in the Hadith, and absolutely, it's a completely logically inconsistent position to be like all these early Muslims that made of these Hadith, they're all liars, but we trust them to give us the Quran. I mean, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. He also said, now I understand why it takes more than 8 years to become a sheikh. All the holes and how to avoid them. Well put there. And to the point of what we were talking about, Sharia law, there's many, many, many laws to learn, and you have to learn. Becoming a sheikh isn't learning the Quran. It's learning the scholar's opinion of that scholar, whose opinion of that other scholar. It's a giant maze to navigate. You have to understand what everyone said about everyone else. And then finally, I wanted to close on this comment. Safraz is what you get when God has no logos, no reason. Islam has no logos, no reason. So many Muslims end up like Safraz, incoherent. And that is the truth. And
I must state, in Sharia law, confusion, remember they always say Allah is not a God of confusion. Well, in the Sharia, it states that confusion can benefit Islam.
Absolutely. Then, what's right is what benefits Islam, and what's wrong is what is detrimental to it. This is how they understand right and wrong, not some deep moral conception like we might have. So thank you all for joining us today. We'll reschedule the original presentation for another day, but hopefully you found this discussion with Safraz and golden era of Islam helpful. I certainly think that it was beneficial. We got to see how a Muslim weaves and dives, and you can see why they never want to talk about the Sharia, because they're embarrassed by what it teaches. They know that what it teaches is detrimental to Islam, and therefore they should not talk about it, in addition to the explicit commands not to talk about it. But if Safraz is one thing, he is brash. He is not wise about what he comes up and talks about. So we were happy to take that opportunity and do that. I will be on Bob's channel tomorrow. We'll be discussing the death of Muhammad from a historical standpoint. And later this week, I'll have an announcement about a new project that I'm working on, so stay tuned for that as well. Thank you all for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day and a great week. Go and serve the Lord.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.